stained glass windows look like the paint's fairly bare there. Is there a reason why, or are they still doing some work before they finish off painting those? In the picture, they look, the main two windows in the middle look like they're fairly bare of paint, stripped right down. Do you know if that's worked?
Well, and I was just going to add too, Carl, because Carl and I had this discussion today, and I think, I don't think either of us probably actually know the answer to that, but I think my understanding is that they were keeping those windows and not, and there was some repair work to be done there. So I think it's not complete, but it's probably that's what the piece that they're waiting on.
Yeah, Chris?
I guess in my opinion, like there's nothing historic about the porch. There's nothing, I don't know if we should have funded it in the first place. So I don't really care if they pick a different color or if they, it's just a porch, right? It's a lucrative house that's getting apartments in it. And it's, yeah, it's, I'm hoping as we do our CIP review that we get less of these projects and more kind of ones that would have latched on to more heritage attributes about this one. Like if it was a restoration of a porch that was there originally, then, you know, this might be relevant of what the color would be, but it's just a set of steps.
Okay, so are we in agreement that they can change the color from white? And do we want to make a suggestion for the color or leave it up to them to decide what color they're going to do? Or do we want them to come back to us with a suggestion of a color that we could approve? Just leave it up to them. Carl?
So they're suggesting a tobacco kind of color, so like a brownish, greenish color. So if the committee is broadly okay with that, then we can just leave that be. If the committee really wants to see something else, then we can take that to the proponents.
Chris?
Carl, do you know what the kind of wood they've used? Have they used cedar or pressure treated for it?
I don't know the answer to that question, Chris. If you like, we can reach out and confirm if the committee would like that information.
Like, I guess my preference would be if it's the kind of wood that can be left, maybe just leave it or paint it white. I don't know where the tobacco color scheme comes into things unless, like, it looks like everything right now is gray or white. So I don't understand what their advantage is to that color, but if that's cedar or pressure treated, it looks okay the way it is now. So maybe they just want to leave it.
Janet?
I agree. You had made the point earlier that didn't really matter on the color. It's still going to be high maintenance once you paint it, right? White or otherwise. My preference would certainly be the white. That the way you just described that alternate color doesn't really,
Yeah.
to me, doesn't bode well to the other colors in it. And you're right. If we're going to leave it, if it is a good material and be left raw, then that's probably second best. Certainly the Tabasco coloring doesn't look like it would suit it very well in my view, but.
I would agree. Why don't we give them that message, Carl?
We will we'll be pleased to convey that.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion on this? Thank you. I just want to go back one point. I missed the adoption of the minutes. Reading through the minutes, does somebody want to move to adopt the minutes? Chris?
I'd just like to suggest edit. I believe based on members present, we've got 5 people and all the motions are carried 6-0. So just to, like, if we could approve them with the amendment of that being 5-0. That was the only thing I noticed on them.
The first one is 6-0. The second one is 5-0, 5-0, and then 6-0. So maybe, Carl, we could get those changed as the minutes.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, any other concerns about the minutes? Well, I'm just going to bring one up, and that was Chris Amur. He asked about the downtown revitalization and waterfront integration master plan and whether that was approved by council. And I think, Carl, you've got some information on that.
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair. It has been approved. Staff have reached out to the clerk's office regarding the downtown revitalization and waterfront integration master plan, and the deputy clerk has confirmed the policy was adopted by council through bylaw 8576-2013. So that would have been approved. So it was approved by council around 2013.
Thank you. Chris?
Thanks, Irv. And thanks, Carl, for looking that up for us. Could we get a copy of that bylaw sent to the committee just for
Yes.
reference?
Yep, we can do that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, priority issues. CIP monitoring, the consultation surveys. Carl, do you want to give us a briefing on what Mary put together there, please?
Oh.
Chris?
Irv, do we need a mover and a seconder for the minutes there?
Oh, I guess we do. Okay,
Sorry.
can I get a mover, please? Chris, thank you. A seconder? Becky, thank you. Everybody in favor? Good. Okay, we approve them with the suggested changes. Thank you, Carl. And thanks, Chris. Consultation surveys. Carl, do you want to start this off, please?
Yes, so I will attempt to do the best justice I can to the excellent reports that Mary has prepared, and we have two of them. The first one I'll present is just an information report, and that's the evaluation under town policies, and just to confirm the commit for the committee's information. There's the evaluation matrix and the guiding principles that staff are developing the monitoring program are based on 3 points in the strategic plan. That's the plan to support diverse housing forms, pedestrian-friendly businesses, tourism impact, and economic impact, as well as several criteria in the downtown revitalization and waterfront integration master plan. There's 4 criteria there. And the CIP really is one of the tools that's one of the planning tools that we have that implements a lot of the principles and objectives from the revitalization waterfront integration master plan. So it's important, while that plan is 7 years old, it's still quite relevant for what we're doing here. So that's guiding us, as well as 3 parts of the official plan are also included as guiding principles here. And the official plan, of course, is what gives us, that's what gives us legally the authority to enter in to create a community improvement plan. So certainly staff are guided by that as we're developing the monitoring framework. So it's very important to us that the monitoring process be guided by existing policies that sort of speak to what it is that we're looking to accomplish in a CIP. So this report was just prepared for committee's information. We don't need any action, but I'll welcome any questions the committee may have.
I think it really focuses us on something that's real, not a perception. We've got the plans. Do the proponents that have come forward with the CIP fall within these plans? And how well do they fall within these plans? So I think that's going to come out very well, I think. Any other comments on the 3 items, the 3 plans, strategic plan, downtown revitalization, and an official plan? They're itemized there as to components that we're going to be looking at. Anything to add to that? Chris?
Thanks, Irv. I think just in a nutshell, all of the policies there back it up, but really the 4 problems we're trying to solve with this CIP are improving signage and getting signs up to the level of the future sign bylaw, filling in vacant spaces, vacant commercial spaces in the CIP area, restoring heritage features that might not be economically viable to restore, and improving accessibility. And all of these kind of plans come down to those 4, in basic terms, those would be the 4 things that it comes to. So that I don't know. I think it's good progress. It's exciting to see this stuff move forward. And big thanks to Mary and Carl.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah.
Carl?
Yeah, and just to echo Councillor McGuire's comment, I think really that's the key question as we go through this monitoring is we all know what the objectives are. Those are outlined in the policies, and just figuring out how do we craft and design a community improvement plan that best and most efficiently gets us to those objectives and those goals. So I think it's very helpful that this kind of focuses us a little bit.
Exactly, exactly. Chris, do you think that we should be involving the Municipal Heritage Committee in any way in our discussions regarding the CIP and how well we're doing against the plans?
Yeah, like I think there'd be real value in involving the MHC and in evaluating the quality of the work that we've subsidized. I think there's a real divergence sometimes between the committee's opinion and the Heritage Committee's opinion on what a quality restoration or renovation would be. I think it's a huge loss right now that we don't have that MHC rep at this table too, to give that dialogue. But at the very least, yeah, if we could maybe include them in some of the reporting aspects or have a report go to the MHC meeting, that'd be beneficial.
Great. Carl?
So the terms of reference for the Community Improvement Plan Evaluation Committee do specify that an MHC member should be a part of this committee. So obviously we have Councillor McGuire sits on this committee and sits on the MHC committee, but his role in this committee, he's sitting here as the council rep on this committee. So the Heritage Committee is discussing. We have put out a call for volunteers, and we're going to put out another call for volunteers for a member of the MHC to be specifically the MHC representative on this committee. And if we have a volunteer, then we can bring that recommendation to council to formally appoint this person. But we do have a vacancy on this committee for an MHC member.
Okay, I think at the very least we should put it into the work that we're doing, the evaluation, that we don't have someone from the MHC here sitting on our committee, and that we really need to push forward on getting someone to join us. So that should be part of the evaluation. Okay, thank you for that, Carl. Let's go on to the consultation surveys. Carl?
Thank you. So the second report to present is an update on the consultation surveys, and ultimately the purpose of the consultation surveys, of course, is to give us that background information for both the CIP recipients, prospective recipients, and those who may be potential recipients of the plan. So I think so just to provide a little bit of background. Earlier this fall, Council has, with the recommendation of staff and this committee, Council has approved an amendment to the terms of the CIP evaluation terms of reference for this committee to essentially form a steering committee for the program monitoring that would be led and guided by planning staff. So I think that was what we're looking to do right now is develop a survey to basically outreach to businesses who've applied to the CIP. So identify how this program has worked for them. Do we feel, or do they feel, that this program has given has basically allowed them to fulfill the objectives that we've set forward in terms of economic development, in terms of heritage restoration, good design, all of that? Has this been what they were hoping for when they've made the application? Do they see any barriers to the progress, or any barriers to the processes? Are there any particular reasons why they wouldn't apply again, or why they would apply again? So just trying to get a sense from applicants as to whether the programs have worked for them. And also, more broadly speaking, the CIP is of course, it's available to all property owners, tenants, business, or property owners and businesses in the downtown for multi-residential and commercial uses. So we could theoretically have 100 or so applications come in at some point. So we also want to reach out to anyone else and just see, firstly, are they aware of the CIP program? Is there a reason why? I think we all want to see lots of applications and good applications. We haven't seen as many applications as we want to, and we're trying to get a sense of why. So the hope is this outreach to our stakeholders in the downtown are going to kind of paint a picture for whether the program is working, and maybe some tweaks that we can recommend, and those would kind of guide us in looking at program revisions. So what staff are looking for direction from this committee here are do we want to see a single applicant, recipient, and property owner survey? So one survey directed towards all identified parties with the option to skip over questions that would only be applicable to applicants, recipients. So we'd be using the Speak Up Smith Falls module to obtain feedback. Or do we want to see separate surveys one for applicants and one for business owners, stakeholders, anybody else in the downtown who has not been an applicant, and just get that sense. So I think in this case, both options have been geared with questions that will assist in identifying challenges and successes with respect to promotional methods, processing, and overall provisions. However, we also want to gauge the market for future participation and interest in CIP incentive programs. So I think ultimately what we want is to assist and support suggested recommendations in the monitoring report. So I think what we're looking for is what's the most feasible and what's the most realistic, a single survey or two surveys, and staff are proposing that we give a minimum 5 weeks public consultation for this. So we'll look for the committee's direction on that, and certainly I'll welcome any feedback from. We have a couple of committee members here who are on the working group committee as well, who are working with Mary on devising this. So I'll welcome any feedback from those committee members on this conversation.
Okay, let's divide this up into sections, not just jump right in. So I'd like to know, let's go to the applicant and recipient consultation form. And I'd just like to know if there's any suggested changes or concerns to that form. So it's been gone over quite a few times between our subcommittee and Mary. So, but if there's any changes that are required, now's the time to speak up. Chris?
Sorry, Irv, are we deciding whether to use a separate one or a full one? Or are we looking over specific surveys first?
Well, I'd like to go over the surveys first to see if there's any concerns or changes, and then we can decide whether we use the two or the one.
Would it be better to decide whether we use the two or the one first so we don't look over one that we might cut, or?
Whichever way you'd like to do it. Would you like to do it that way? Okay, then let's do it that way. How do people feel about the two different versions as to how we go about doing these surveys, whether we use the two different surveys and go to two different people to get those surveys done, or have the one survey and hand that out to everyone? Any suggestions, concerns about which way? Karen?
So if we do the one survey, just clarifying, they're only going to be able to access it through Speak Up Smith Falls. Is that right?
Carl?
Yes, that would be the primary way in which it would be done electronically. Certainly, I don't view that as the only way we can do that. And if the committee has other ideas on how we can do that outreach, we're certainly interested in that. At the end of the day, we want to get as much participation as we can. And if Speak Up Smith Falls doesn't capture everybody, then we'll look for ways that can get more.
Okay. Becky?
I was just going to add to Karen, I didn't know if you were going to weigh into that, but we do have the option to use SurveyMonkey. We do have that access to that as well at the town. So we could, Speak Up Smith Falls is definitely increasing in its engagement. And, but I think either way, we were going to use either Speak Up Smith Falls or SurveyMonkey, but we are sort of flexible with those options if anyone has a strong opinion about that.
Is there any way that we're going to hand out hard copies to businesses downtown or to businesses who have been involved in the CIP, or we're not doing hard copies at all? Carl, any idea? Becky?
Well, I was just going to say, I suspect that due to COVID, we're definitely trying to not do hard copies whenever possible. But I think if there was a particular business that needed to use that, we could probably make that arrangement with them. But probably in general, I would think we would want to avoid that. But Carl, you can weigh in there too.
Becky took the words straight out of my mouth. So if somebody requests a hard copy, we'll provide a hard copy, but that's not our preferred way of distributing this.
Okay, Chris?
I would suggest SurveyMonkey. I found with the Police Services Board consultation, we only had 60 people fill it out, where in the past we've had over 200. And I just find there's so many steps to go through to log in, to create an account if you don't already have one. There's just a lot of easy barriers that come up when somebody's intending to fill it out that could, they could lose focus, get onto something else. So SurveyMonkey would be my choice, but that's...
Okay. Aaron?
I just wanted to agree with Chris McGuire. I find just from experience with the DBA that business owners are very busy, and if you're asking them to go to a site to fill out a survey, it's less likely that they're probably going to do it because their life is pretty busy, and especially with COVID, pandemic, everything like that. So I think making it as easy as possible, having it on their doorstep, like a SurveyMonkey, makes it one less barrier to filling that out. And I just have one other question is, how are we going to get the word out? Like, it would be through the chamber, the DBA, or other means, just clarifying.
I'd expect it would be through the chamber, through the DBA, and through word of mouth as much as possible. Yeah, but okay. Once we've confirmed the way we're going to distribute the survey, then we can certainly, for those who've worked with SurveyMonkey more than I have, I'd certainly look to you for guidance on what's the best way to connect this way.
For the property owners, like, we're looking to send this out to quite a large area in town with different sections of the town. Are we going to be able to contact them just through the chamber or the DBA? Is that going to be enough, or do we need to put something in the paper indicating that we're doing this? Becky?
So I would say, I think using the chamber and the DBA is really good for reaching those businesses, like you said, but we would also probably we would put it on our Facebook page as well, which is a really good way to engage the public in Smith Falls. I think where we have to be careful, and this is where Speak Up Smith Falls is handy, is that it does provide a little bit more of like a barrier. We don't want necessarily people weighing in that aren't from our community, or I guess the value of that is a little bit different. So wanting to definitely engage with a specific group, then Speak Up Smith Falls does give you a little bit more of that gateway. Although I do agree with both you, Karen, and Chris about some of the extra challenges and the lower engagement that we do get there than, say, if we were to throw up a SurveyMonkey and put it on social media. So I think we would just have to, go through that, be a little bit careful. But I think Facebook is a really good way. We could put something in the paper as well. But definitely our Facebook page is very engaged, and it's a great way to reach the whole community.
Okay, Karen?
Is it possible, Becky, for us to do a SurveyMonkey that the chamber and the DBA could send out to our people and then have it available on Speak Up Smith Falls as well for other people?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say probably it's strongest to do one or the other. I think we'd be okay with a SurveyMonkey. I think what we would do is we wouldn't ask probably for it to be anonymous. I think people, we would be, that's how one way that it can make it a little bit easier as we're collecting that data, that people sort of declare who they are and, what their connection is to the CIP program. So I think if we do the SurveyMonkey, it can be really vague, but, as to collecting that data, or we can really ask people, and then you'd essentially know that if somebody were to fill it out multiple times or something like that, then we can see that. So I think it's not an issue necessarily to use SurveyMonkey if it's easier, but we would just set it up that way. Sorry.
Okay, Carl, anything to add?
Yeah, or to build on what Becky had suggested, if we use SurveyMonkey and we can simply create a question at the beginning where somebody just checks a box where they attest to the fact that they're a property owner or a tenant in the downtown core. We may not be able to verify that, but at the end of the day, we're still it's still there. And I know when we were developing the survey for the housing task force, I know like we acknowledge that there's no way we can avoid we can't stop somebody from outside the town participating in that, but we did our best to certainly direct who this is for, but we had to recognize there was that level of trust that people were going to complete the survey who were sort of in the geographic area we're trying to hear from.
Okay, Chris?
Just for all the conversation on the geographic area, several of the questions are about, where's your business located? What kind of business is it? What's your role with the business? Ultimately, we're going to get that data out of the questions of the survey. And if somebody wants to take the 15 minutes it's going to take to fill this out when they're not, and lie on the survey, that's kind of a certain risk. But whether or not they've got a Speak Up Smith Falls account or it's shared on Facebook, I don't know if one's going to be more of a deterrent over another. But there is a lot of demographic information in the survey. And I think if there were some questions that were kept vague to keep it more anonymous, and if we wanted to really know who was filling out each one, it would almost be beneficial to change some of the applicant questions so that we actually know what grant they're referring to, and then we can really make it specific when we review those forms. But anyway, that's my 2 cents on it.
Okay, I'm still a little, downtown core, the DBA can get that information to us and the chamber can get some information also for us. But we've got west of Abbott Street and William Street, east of Abbott Street to River Street, south Broadview Avenue, east of Queen Street, east of Elmsley Street to Rideau Avenue, north of Cornelia Street. That's a lot of area with a lot of businesses. When we think of the town's Facebook page, is that going to be like, do those businesses regularly check the town's Facebook page? Are we going to be able to get out to all those people? Like, that's a lot of businesses that wouldn't necessarily be connected to the DBA or maybe even to the Chamber of Commerce. Chris?
I think it's a pretty good coverage when you see like what Becky's doing on Instagram, I don't know if you're doing the Facebook too, but businesses are constantly sharing things. We're resharing things for them. So there's a really good ecosystem on there where the business community seems active. I think the Chamber of Commerce, like, that's a go-to mailing list, but to put an ad in the newspaper when the newspaper's going to, 4,500 houses and who knows if even some of those business owners don't live right in town, maybe they wouldn't get it. So I don't know. I would definitely go with the email list, social media, that side, than spending money on an ad, and just for the amount it would go. I don't know if it's like, ideally, if we had a summer student that could knock on doors and leave a pamphlet or something or tell them all about it, that'd be great. But I don't think that's feasible right now,
Okay. If we're all comfortable with that, then that's the way we're going to go. So let's make a decision on whether we want 2 surveys or we want 1 survey combining all of the questions. Chris, you might as well start this.
My preference is for 1 survey, because if we have 2 surveys, we've got to weed people out before we send it to them. If we've got 1 survey, it's easy. It's 1 link. We send out the SurveyMonkey, and then if we do it in a way that they can skip with SurveyMonkey, I think you can skip questions. So, if you haven't had an application that's successful, you skip questions 10 to 15 or whatever it's going to be, and it just streamlines it. I think it'll also be easier to visualize the data because we'll be able to contrast people that have filled it out against people that haven't filled it out, and most of the questions were similar anyway. So 1 survey. That's my vote.
Okay, Becky?
I actually agree with Chris. I think it makes it a lot easier and it reduces any confusion. And I do think we have the capacity to make those skip down if somebody's not a property owner or hadn't applied for CIP. I think you have that capacity. So I think it just makes it easier. Then we don't have the wrong, survey going to the wrong person. Oh, shoot, we sent you the wrong one. Or no, you have to do this one, not that one. And so I think I do definitely agree with you, Chris, that's the best way in my opinion.
Anyone else for discussion? Okay, I think originally I was thinking I like the 2 survey idea better, but that would be for us dinosaurs with the gray hair, be a hard copy. Using SurveyMonkey, which I have done for town surveys before, it makes total sense to me to use the 1 survey. So if we're all in agreement on that, if there's no dissent, then let's go with the 1 survey. If we can do it with SurveyMonkey, it sounds like that would be the best way to go. So we'll leave it with Carl to get that information back to Mary to see what she can do. Okay. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. I did want to, before we get down to correspondence, which there's nothing, and then the round table, I just wanted to say, we've been kind of working on a bit of a schedule here to try and get things completed by the end of the year on this evaluation. But I want to make sure that we have enough time to properly think about each component of the evaluation as we proceed. So if we don't get it done by the end of the year, I'm fine with pushing it back into January if that's what has to be done. I want us to have time to sleep on issues, not to rush through them with decisions that aren't the right decisions. So I just wanted to get that out there that, if we need more time, we're going to make more time and we're going to make more space to make sure we do it properly. Okay. Correspondence issues, there's none identified. Roundtable, does anyone have, Chris?
Thanks, sir. I just wanted to give everybody a heads up that the town has an accessibility committee that should start meeting soon. It's been a challenge to recruit members, so if anybody knows somebody in the community with a disability that would like to join, we still have spots available. But I was thinking that maybe as part of this review or just in general, we would want somebody, a representative from that committee sitting on this committee to give an opinion on accessibility applications and that aspect of it. In the past, we haven't had a ton of applications for facade improvements or interior grants that have involved accessibility, but I'm hoping that that becomes more of an outlet in the future, and wondering if maybe that kind of a representative would be beneficial in our discussions.
Okay, do you think that's someone to join this committee or our subcommittee on the evaluation?
Sorry, I'm just thinking for right now, our terms of reference say we've got the DBA, the Chamber, the MHC, the ECDEV, all of those kind of things. Do we need the accessibility committee to be one of those on that list of members that, ideally like the MHC would attend these meetings, participate as a voting member? Would that be something maybe that would help us have a better, more rounded discussion? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. A roundtable. Maybe if people are interested, we can put it on or make it part of the review. But I didn't think it was substantial enough to make it an agenda item. So I just thought I'd throw it out there for.
Well, I think, the DBA and the Chamber, they're all designated as far as the CIP document goes. Disability access is not, so we might be able to recommend it in our evaluation, or we could, I don't know, Carl, recommend it separately to council. Yes, Carl?
So I think what I'm seeing as a result of the evaluation is a series of recommendations that allow us to basically improve the CIP. Well, firstly, confirm whether we believe the CAP has value, but also identify any gaps in the administration, any gaps in how we implement it. And I think it's very much within this committee's mandate to suggest that accessibility is one item that we should be maybe focusing a little bit more on, rather than just sort of as an aside and one thing we assign a few points to. But if the committee feels that this is something that's really absolutely essential to what we do and something that we want to have front and center in considering applications, both for programs 1 and for programs 2, then I think it's well within our mandate to make that recommendation to council that this be incorporated, and that can be accommodated in a revision to the terms of reference. I expect that that's probably going. I expect that the terms of reference for this committee are probably going to be one of the things that get changed when we're done the review, and that's one area where that can happen.
Okay, so I think the recommendation is that we'll put it in our recommendations from the committee regarding our monitoring and what we found. So let's move it in that direction. Anything else there, Chris? No. Okay, Becky.
Nope.
Karen. Carl.
No. I think nothing to add right now. Just a couple of highlights. I know we have this. I know we hear this often, but there are always a few applications that we're expecting to come in and hopefully will land. And Becky and I have been, we've had many chats with a couple of applicants on that. So we're hopeful. We're always hopeful that we're going to be coming forward in a future meeting with applications. So I know the next meeting is one thing that's coming on the agenda later. So we'll just keep that in mind. We have a couple of applications at this point that are incomplete and not ready to take to the committee, but that can change within the next couple of weeks.
Perfect. We'll be looking forward to that. Janet, anything to add? No? Okay. Let's look at our next meeting date. So normally our next meeting date would be the 11th of November, but that's Remembrance Day, so we're not going to do it that day. I'm wondering about the 10th or the 12th. Do we have other meetings going on those days, Chris?
Sorry, I was just going to say not the 18th because that's the MHC day. But the 12th would work for me.
Okay, Carl?
The 12th is normally the second Thursday of the month is when the Planning Advisory Committee regular scheduled meeting. So I'd recommend we not go with the 12th.
Okay. I'm actually going to stay away from Friday the 13th. So we're not going to meet on Friday the 13th. How about the 10th, November the 10th? Do we have other meetings on the 10th of November? We're good? Okay, Carl, let's make it, Janet, did you have?
Just to let you know, I won't be here, but that's fine. I mean, if it works for everybody else, I'm on vacation that day, so.
Okay, good for you. All right, Carl, let's pass on to Mary that we're going to make it the 10th. And one of the items for sure that will be on our list is the program 4 components and what we should do with that. So that's all that I have on my list. So I'll ask for someone to move for adjournment, please. Okay, Becky and Chris, both. And I'm assuming everybody is in agreement with that. I'll thank you again for all your support and hard work. So thank you very much. And we'll see you in a month.